यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मोक्षयमामृता त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मोक्षयमामृता यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मोक्षयमामृता ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्युर्मुक्षीयमामृता।
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome to Satsang, everyone. Happy to see you all. So today, I want to share with you an email that I got yesterday, as well as another one I got this morning from the same person. Probably, some of you at least, will be able to relate to these questions and hopefully also to the resolution of them. As often is the case, this question is preceded by, I really don't like speaking via Zoom. Somehow I'm not comfortable. So some of you certainly can relate to that. So I'm going to read to you the whole email first. It's in 3 parts. And then after I make a comment or two about this, I'll also read her follow-up email that came this morning. Would you please tell us about spiritual development? I'm asking this because I feel stuck. I feel like I'm moving away, not getting closer, and I cannot see any development. I know this is an ego-based feeling, but feels very harmful and makes me sad. Her second point. Would you please tell us something about doubt? Doubt in the teaching, doubt that enlightenment is available to all of us. And she says, there are a lot of monks who just meditate all day long, and they make a huge effort every day. So please tell me honestly, what can we hope for? If enlightenment is not available for everyone, how do we continue our sadhana? I have these doubts, especially when there is no spiritual progress. So this relating to the first comment. The third, what is the right attitude when life is hard? When life is hard, give it to the Lord and the Lord helps carry the burden. You've said something like that. When life is hard, my mind is in big tension, so it's really hard to relax. I feel life is so unfair, and I'm a bit angry and sad. So it's really hard to give it to the Lord sincerely and be humble. So what is the right attitude here? I suffer despite all my spiritual effort, and is there no help? Until I believe that I'm not this body, mind, and feeling, there is no help at all? Question mark. And then she says, I know these questions are ego-based and comes from the dark mind, but I feel they are true and real obstacles. Maybe there are others who sometimes struggle with such a problem as this. So some of you might be able to relate to this kind of a mind attack, this kind of a mind storm that can come, especially if you very much are engaging the inquiry on a regular and consistent basis. In the final analysis, when we come to realize that what is going on is not a judgment of who we are, it's not an indicator of who we are. It's a mind attack. Or you might prefer an ego attack. The ego, in this case, simply being the belief that I is a separate entity existing in a separate world. So in this case, as she outlines in her email, we've completely lost touch with the unity of our own being, haven't we? We've come to identify again in a very strong way, in a very uncomfortable way, in a way that leads directly into suffering. We've come to identify ourselves with some story, some self-belief that's coming from conditioning about who I am. We've forgotten that we are not all of these various objects that the mind keeps throwing up, that we are that which is aware of the objects. And she's right, in this circumstance, it becomes very difficult to remember, to inquire, who is this I, to whom these questions are coming, to whom these emotions are arising? Who is this I? We become so entranced in a way by the mind, by what's going on in the mind, that we completely forget who I am. So her first question is, would you please tell us about spiritual development? So I have to approach this with you in two ways, you can say. One way is to say that as long as there is a me present, there is the perception of a spiritual development that can happen. This spiritual development appears to be true in the same way that me appears to be true. This is in the mind. So there seems to be some process which is going on over time, which is either leading me further into the heart of being or is leading me away. And I talk about this a lot, don't I? The way that if you lean out into objects in the mind, in emotions, if you lean out into the experiences you're having in the world, that you'll become identified with them. And then the remedy, the medicine for that illness is to ask, what is aware here? Or who am I? Who is it that is having this experience? Who is it that is thinking these thoughts, feeling these emotions? Who is this I? to bring us back to the heart of being, give us the opportunity to become still, calm, plunge more deeply inside. So this is the appearance of process and how it appears to work. But understand that this is relative to an underlying conditioned belief that I am the body, I am the mind, and I am the world. So as long as this belief is here, we engage in this process. And of course, it is the fact that when we engage in this process, we do in fact draw the attention, don't we, back from whatever the object is, from whatever the disturbance is, and we place it in the heart. And by doing this, some relief comes. But the second part of my answer here is to state very clearly, you are already and always that which is aware. You are the self. That which is aware is not touched or moved by what is going on in the mind, in the conditioning. There's an appearance when conditioning has trapped us that I am these thoughts, I am these experiences, I am these emotions. But as you all have experienced, these thoughts, emotions, and so on are passing. They are impermanent. They always go. There is nothing which you were thinking, feeling, or experiencing 5 years ago, which is here in this moment. There is nothing that you were thinking, experiencing, or feeling even a week ago, which is here now. Something else is here now. This is the nature of mind. It is impermanent. It is empty. It is always moving, always striving forward with its own agenda, based in conditioning and based in the belief I am the body or I am the mind. But the truth of your nature is that you are here now, in this moment. And when you cleave to that, when you return attention to this still place, which is here now, in this moment, everything which has occurred in the past, everything which is occurring in the present moment, outside of here and now, in your life, everything which may or will occur in the future is empty. It is simply moving as it's wont to do. So the process that seems to present itself is this process of asking yourself under all sorts of conditions, to whom does this experienced thought, emotion, and so on come? The answer naturally comes. It comes to me. Then the natural question follows, who am I? Who is this me that I'm referring to? And when you look for this me, of course, you can't find it. But by doing so, you strip away your history, your past, your present, even, and your future, to come fully into the here, now, and to realize that even with this difficult scene on the screen of awareness, there is still something which is here before that, prior to whatever your thoughts, emotions, and feelings are at the moment. The second part of her email says, would you please tell us something about doubt? This doubt attack, which she's experiencing, one can say is a secondary manifestation of mind. And this often comes when we begin to have some success with the inquiry. Who am I? What is aware here? When we start to penetrate into the emptiness of being, the fullness of the heart, the mind which senses its own demise, its own death, says, this cannot be true. This is not the correct path. This is too easy, or I can't do this. This is the doubt attack, which is following up the recognition by the mind that its first assault didn't work, that you are continuing with this inquiry. So now a full-blown doubt attack comes. Bhagavan cannot have been telling the truth. Oh, the Buddha must have been mistaken. These kinds of thoughts. I can never accomplish this. This was for them. They were special in some way, and I am not. I can never accomplish this. But one of the things that the Buddha said in his teaching, most of you know I was a Buddhist teacher for many years. One of the things the Buddha said was that the very last samskara, the very last tendency, if you will, to go before the final stage of self-realization was doubt. So you can become a very good person. You can be having all sorts of samadhi experiences. You can be living in bliss, all of these things. The indicator, the opportunity of doubt is to realize that if this kind of doubt is present, that I don't get this, I don't understand this, I can't do this. If this kind of doubt is present, be grateful. Because the opportunity to work on doubt is the opportunity to realize your true nature when you transcend this doubt. You do this, again, in the way of Advaita, by asking the question, to whom does this doubt arise? And then not pursuing the identification with the doubt, but rather pursuing the seer of the doubt. By pursuing the seer, all things resolve themselves in the emptiness, in the heart, in the heart of being. So we just continue. One of the comments that follows this one is there are a lot of monks all day long and make a huge effort every day they meditate. So I just have a brief comment about this. If this is your path, to spend many hours every day in deep meditation, this will happen quite naturally to you. And when I say naturally, I don't necessarily mean it will happen easily, but it will be a tendency which rises in you. And you will be just drawn into many, many, many hours per day of meditation. And meditation, or dhyana, is very, very useful because by following the breath, by moving into a deep devotional state, by keeping the name of God on one's mind, in one's heart, through many hours of the day, there is a natural peacefulness, calmness, which is discovered and which is present in you, is present in each and every one of you, though it may be buried beneath the turmoil of your mind. So if it is your destiny, you can say, to spend time, many hours per day, in deep meditation. This is just your way. This is not to say that this is the way for everyone. In the final analysis, your path is the one you are on, not what you imagine would be a better path. It is simply the one you are on. This is the great benefit of the inquiry. The inquiry does not require that you spend hours and hours and hours a day in meditation. If that happens to be your dharma, your destiny, that will happen. Don't worry about it. You won't be able to avoid that. But you have come here today and in your practice into the world of vichara. Who am I? This consistent and persistent questioning of your perceptions, your emotions, your experiences, the entire belief structure around who you are, this is vichara, this is inquiry. Who am I? What is aware here? This can be undertaken moment by moment, at any time, throughout your day, no matter what activity you are engaged in. So there's no requirement to engage in vichara that you arrange your life to be perfectly quiet, off in a monastery somewhere, in a cave. This will happen quite naturally if that's your destiny. Otherwise, stay where you are. Know that what is in front of you is your teacher, the experience itself. This doesn't mean that you have to accept everything just as the way that it is, as everything is going along, and believing that somehow what you are seeing on the screen of awareness says something about who you are. It does not say anything about who you are. But in order to realize this, you engage in the vichara. Who am I? What is aware here throughout all of your activities, so that you come to this place where you begin to see that you are not what appears on the screen of awareness. You just keep this up. Do this anywhere. Don't judge yourself according to some standard of what it means to be doing spiritual practice, or what it means to be living a spiritual life, or what it means to wake up in this moment. All of your notions, all of your preconceived notions, we can say, about the nature of enlightenment are wrong. You are that which is aware here, now. What is on the screen in any given moment is of no consequence. I cannot emphasize this enough. You suffer from a belief that what you see on the screen is real. This is like sitting comfortably in a theater, in a lounge chair, with surround sound, and a drink, and popcorn. And when the fire comes on the screen of a great conflagration, you jump up out of your seat and run out of the theater. This is the same, this habit of mind. This comes when a mind attack, such as is being described here, happens. You immediately get out, run outside into the world, into the scorching sun once again, instead of just remaining in the air-conditioned comfort of the vichara. Well, and the last statement is, what is the right attitude when life is hard? So I think we've covered that. There is no doubt that life becomes hard. This is why I say to you, when there's a difficult mind state, when there's a mind attack going on, when there's a difficult emotional state, and so on, stand in it. Recognize the opportunity that is there and stand in it. Stand in it means recognize I am here now. That which is aware of this. This is uncomfortable. This is difficult. I don't like this. I feel sad. Whatever is there, I am depressed as a consequence of what I am seeing on the screen. But stand in it through the recognition that which is aware is here now, even in this. During this time, you may not feel relaxed. Isn't this true? You may not feel relaxed. But if you realize through your experience, through the practice of inquiry, through the returning over and over to the heart of being, if you realize that you have a strength there, even if it's only a momentary strength, and you have to repeat the question again a few moments later, there still is a momentary strength there, which makes it possible for you to stand in what is here now with the recognition that I am not that, I am that which is aware of this. So you just keep coming back to this. Keep coming back to this. Now, having said that, I want to read you what came this morning. Because it illustrates what happens when we do one of two things. We either stand in it using the vichara, or we surrender, right? These are the two ways in Vedanta. Bhakta, the path of the Bhakta, or Bhakti Yoga, which is the path of surrender of everything to the divine, or the inquiry, the practice of vichara, jhana. Jhana is there for those who are comfortable and able to live in the path of wisdom, stand in whatever is going on, and have a firm foundation. Then vichara, inquiry, becomes the way. This is jnana, the path of jnana, or wisdom. Both ways are equally strong, you can say. They equally lead us back into this moment of recognition. That which is aware is here now. And she says, this again this morning, after she has stood still in this middle of all of this questioning, this mind attack, and then she surrenders it. How is it surrendered? She surrenders it because she actually says to herself, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write this all out, I'm going to look through it, and I'm going to send it to Rishi for questioning tomorrow. This is the release. This is the recognition. I don't need to do this on my own. I'm going to surrender this to the divine. I'm going to surrender this to the satsang. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to say, this is what is happening. And I'm going to ask for some help in some way. To recognize this about ourselves when we are in difficulty, and to turn to the divine, to turn to Bhagavan, to turn whatever it is for you, whether it's a saint, a sage, or an achala, or just this recognition of the Supreme, and to say, I put this at your feet. I cannot do this on my own. You take this. This is surrender. This is the path of bhakta, of the bhakta, of bhakti yoga. You take care of this. I put everything at your feet and I surrender. I will do whatever is required here. This is standing in the turmoil of our own minds and saying, this is yours. You do it. This, in a way, takes off some pressure that can come for some people. You may have experienced this, who are on the path of wisdom or jhana. Jhana says, I am going to persistently keep after this. Who am I? Who am I? What is aware here? Who am I? Who am I? I'm going to do this 700 times a day, as Annamalai Swami once said. I'm going to do this 700 times a day, and I'm just going to keep doing it. This kind of pressure, as she indicates in her message, this is sometimes, for some people, cannot be very helpful in the midst of this great turmoil. So then the mind literally collapses. There's this complete sense of failure. But with that comes the recognition that at your feet, I lay everything. I cannot do this. Arunachala, I give this to you. Bhagavan, I give this to you. Whatever that is for you. Ma, I give this to you. Yogi Ram Sarat Kumar, I give this to you. Rishi Ji, I give this to you. Muji Ji, I give this to you. Take care of it. Take care of it. And this is what happens. She writes this morning. Oops, I lost it. Hang on. I don't understand how things are working now. But at the end of the day, I got all of the answers from you. This is a capital Y-O-U, meaning from the Supreme. I got all of the answers from you. Also meaning that she stood within the crisis that she was facing. She completely collapsed her ego, surrendered everything. And in that came the peace of being and the recognition that even though I may not understand what happened, in this surrendering, I have found some peace for this moment. This is beautiful. She says, I have gotten all the answers from you and from Bhagavan. I will remain persistent, doing the inquiry. So you see, from this surrender comes the energy and the recognition to keep on with the inquiry. So first there is this collapsing that says, I cannot ask who I am one more time. There's this sense of failure, this sense of, I cannot do this. I give everything to the Lord. This creates the space where the vichara, the question, who am I? What is aware here? Can now enter again in a more natural way without all that pressure. She says, I will remain persistent doing the inquiry and just sitting at the feet of Arunachala in my heart. This is so beautiful, isn't it? After all of this turmoil, all of this disturbance, this surrender leads her to this place where she says, I just am here, sitting at the feet of the Lord in this moment. I don't know what else to do, so this is what I will do. So when, going back to her first question, she asks, what is the nature of this process? This is it. All of her questions, all of her comments, all of my comments, leading to this moment where there is enough surrender that she can put everything down, sit at the feet of the Lord and say, I am yours. And from that comes this peace. She says, some fire, some kindness, and some compassion happened and redirected me to the path. When life is uncertain and life circumstances are hard and big fear comes up and stays for a long time, it's easy to get lost, to lose one's clarity and one's faith, especially when the feeling comes that I am totally alone or not safe. But now I have found the remedy for that. Beautiful, eh? This is so beautiful. So inherent in your questioning, in your searching, in your seeking, is the answer that you have been looking for all along. But it only comes when you stop. Sometimes you stop out of some wisdom notion. I need to stop. Other times, you are just beaten up by a mind attack until you have no option but to surrender everything about your personal story of me and mine, about ego, into whatever you conceive the divine to be. And in doing so, in being willing to fail like this over and over and over, to have your practice fail over and over, to come to nothing, to a complete sense of emptiness, this level of surrender opens the doorway to your own innate heart wisdom. And whether you understand it or not, you come to this place, as she has, of the recognition that through the fire, through the difficulty, through the upset, through the emotion, through the struggle, something new is understood. And over time, the mind will catch up to whatever the heart has understood. And your faith will come back. And then you will once again ask, what is aware here? Who is it that seemed to go through this whole cycle of up and down? And you will continue on until everything stops and you recognize that which is aware is here now. So thank you, Anita. Is there anything else? That was a beautiful sharing. And thank you.
That really was a beautiful sharing. I'm so touched by it. And I just feel in this one moment of surrender. And then I heard those beautiful words. I felt the surrender. And then I heard surrender, acceptance, and trust.
Mm.
Just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm. as you continue with the inquiry in your own daily life, you will find that you move more and more quickly into this place of surrender, being more willing to let your thoughts go, to realize the emptiness of them, being more willing to let go of your past or your worry about your future. All of these things come as a natural fruit of engaging the inquiry in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day experiences. And over time, you start to realize and acknowledge that by asking this question in all sorts of different circumstances, with different people, with different situations that arise, with different emotions that arise, by asking this question, what is aware here? And being willing to let things be the way that they are, even when they're uncomfortable. That a certain stability, a certain peace, a certain calm begins to solidify. And this becomes the foundation on which you go through the world, through your life, through your daily experiences. And a certain sense of freedom from attachment comes up. It's not that you become detached from life, from experiences, from people. It's that you become non-attached to what is happening. There's a difference between being detached, which is an emotional removal, and being non-attached, which is the constant practice of letting go, of allowing life to be the way that it is, and being willing, because you have the experience of your own inner strength, because you have the experience of a deep inner peace, to stand in the presence of whatever is here with an open heart and loving kindness for all. When you bring your suffering to an end, you also free everyone around you from the need to suffer. They may still suffer. They may still even choose or appear to choose that suffering. Your task, however, is to free them from the need to suffer on your behalf. Free yourself. Hello, Atma Vidya.
Thank you, Rishi Ji. Thank you so much for this beautiful sharing. Felt it touched something inside, and sometimes one letter just speaks what is happening in many lives of us. And I just felt to say, because there's a similar doubt in me coming up at times about the effort we put into practicing the self-inquiry and what is leading us to build this kind of spiritual muscles where you can just be detached. Because I experienced recently when going back to a certain environment where I grew up with many things where I felt it will not touch me. It actually came back full power, and all this mind expectation of you have spent some time, in the spiritual setting, you have worked on yourself, it will be much easier. And then it was full power.
Yeah, full power. Yeah.
You just fall with your face into kind of an emotional drama, and people who seem to know you for some reason, they just maybe there is not enough of detachment. But I see for myself, if I see other beings who are apparently close to you suffering, or because of a body condition or anything, there's a tendency of wanting to help or even kind of take over some of the suffering, and then I just completely go into this, and I just questioned a lot how the spiritual muscle, if there was any, what to do, because then you're again sometimes fully identified with this kind of condition, and it's difficult to pull yourself out of it again, and
Yes.
seems to be dependent on the environment you're in. So maybe you can also comment on that.
Yeah, of course, especially going back into the birth family. I think we've talked about this some recently. And going back into the birth family is particularly challenging for many of us. It's not just because of the circumstances that are occurring in any given moment in that situation. It's also because whatever buttons or triggers we have within ourselves that are still there and still active, whatever samskaras we have in relation to the birth family and the culture that we grew up in, the way we were conditioned and acculturated in that culture, these are all happening on very subtle levels. We don't often even have a conscious recognition of the way that conditioning is working until we go back into the birth family. Because in the birth family, even without a conscious intention, everyone intimately and automatically knows where everyone else's samskaras are, where everyone else's buttons are within that circle. And these are habits and tendencies and conditionings which have been playing out over decades and decades. And these are coming from generations of conditioning. And so to go back in requires a great deal of self-awareness and a great deal of self-compassion to recognize that without even trying, this circle of people will be able in some ways to slip underneath, if you will, or around our spiritual practices. And this in some ways is a very good thing. It can show us the places where we need to strengthen. It can also show us the places where we have been using spiritual life, spiritual practice, to avoid dealing with certain emotions or certain circumstances that come from before even our conscious memory of where these are coming from. And so it's a good remedy for what happens for all of us sometimes, which we call spiritual bypassing, where we go off and we create a life for ourselves, which is a new life, which is based on different principles from what the birth family had or the birth culture had. We establish ourselves in that way. And yet, when we find ourselves back in that birth culture again, we find that in some ways what we were doing around certain people or certain circumstances is using our spiritual path, our spiritual practice to avoid those situations. Yes. And of course, we don't want to force ourselves back into an unhealthy situation just to test our spiritual mettle, just to see whether we are strong and firm or not. This is not necessary. This is a form of self-abuse. But when we find ourselves unexpectedly or necessarily back into that circumstance, and we see that certain old habits, old ways of thinking, old ways of feeling, old ways of being in relation to the birth family come up, then this is an opportunity for us to, again, stand in what's happening, but with the spirit of non-attachment, allowing everyone to grow, to be present, to recognize the self-realized nature of all beings, whether they realize it or not, whether they are hiding behind conditioning or they're hiding behind family values or hiding behind cultural values. To recognize this gives us the ability to stand in those circumstances and to be there as presence, as awareness itself. May not be easy, just like in a Nita's situation. It may not be easy, but it's possible. So just continue. This is your path for this moment. You know what to do. You have to let things be the way they are to a certain degree. As long as you feel that this is still valuable in your sadhana, then you continue. At some point, you can either feel that you are done with this and move on, or you can feel like it's no longer serving you, and that there's not really any other reason for you to be there. There's nothing, to hold you there. So then we move on from that as well. Again, just recognizing that your sadhana is the life you are living now. In this way, you can sort of ask yourself at any given moment, what is it that I need to learn from this? What is that I can see about myself in this? Not what can I say about them? What are they doing? How are they harming me? But rather, what can I see in this circumstance about myself in the way that I respond or I react or I don't respond under certain circumstances? What is there that I can learn from this? And in this way, we are saying to the universe, all of life is my sadhana. So here I am. I'm not afraid. And I'm developing, as you said, these spiritual muscles to be present under all circumstances for all beings with an open heart.
Thank you.
Rishi Ji, can you say something?
Hello, Kamal.
Is it clear or is it too loud? Can you hear me clearly?
I think you need to speak up just a little bit.
Can you hear me clearly?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Okay. As Atmarika was saying about something, and then you said this setup of place where you've been you're again back in the place where you're born and so on. And I was sitting with all of them yesterday or day before yesterday and talking about something. And then in the midst of all that, I realized that even I found myself saying this to them that I'm not anymore what I was. The way I perceived myself, the way I thought, the way I acted, I cannot anymore perceive myself that way. I am. It's just disappeared from me, the way of thinking. Because before I was here in a certain way, and because of this self-inquiry and continuously working on myself, and recognizing the true nature, doing as that, many conditioning for maybe many lifetimes I just disappeared, dissolved. So there's so much of, I would call it power, rising, and non-attachment, and trust in even this. So, and it's not easy or rather difficult to convey this to that family, this body.
Yes. But you know, as you become more clear or experience the clarity of who you are on a more consistent basis, and you are resting there in that clarity, over time, the people in your family, your close friends of many years and so on, they will come to see for themselves that there is a clarity there in you now, that you are not the same as you were before. This is a fruit of practice that sometimes takes some time to ripen, but eventually it does. And when you have the experience like you have had now, in the last couple of days, where you have this clarity about who you are and who you are not anymore, then a certain kind of peacefulness can come over you, a certain kind of resting in self-knowledge can happen. Beautiful. This is a fruit of practice. one of the things that Anita spoke about or mentioned was she said it's something around the possibility of enlightenment. And I just wanted to make a brief comment about the challenge that comes when we set in our minds some ideal about what we think awakening or enlightenment is. And then we are always comparing our own, what we feel our state to be in this moment against that ideal. And inevitably we are coming up short. So best for you, if you put all this speculation about what it might mean to live in an awakened way aside and just continue, even asking this question, who is it that thinks about what it would be like to be enlightened and what it would be like to live in that way? The recognition that comes when you realize, when there is this recognition that that which is aware is here now and has always been here, is that what appears to have taken a long time, what appears to have gone through many, many cycles of clarity and non-clarity, all just disappears in a moment. This is part of the eradication of doubt. For many, many people, for most, one could say, it appears that this waking up is somehow happening in some sort of gradual process, as we talked about before. It seems to be happening, kind of day by day, slowly, slowly. But at the moment of recognition, that which is aware is here now, and I am that. The I of the self, not the I of the ego. And I am that. When this moment comes, there's a recognition that what appeared to be a gradual coming forward actually happened in a split second, happened suddenly. What we often see in the histories of saints and sages is somebody has written some beautiful text, lovely story, wonderful to hear, about that momentary, that sudden recognition of the self. But we come to think that we need to have that bang moment or that aha moment. But for most of us, what happens is what Kamal is describing, where you go through insight after insight after insight, and there's a deepening and a broadening of your foundation in awareness itself. And this happens over a considerable length of time for some people. For some, it happens much more quickly. But in the end, when the recognition, that which is aware is here now, and I am that, comes beyond doubt, that flash of recognition wipes out not only whatever struggles you went through, it wipes out the time it took you to go through it. That all becomes part of what you recognize to have been an illusion. And the realization is, and I have always been this. Even when these disturbances were present, even when there was this cloudy mind, even when there was this upset person or personality that seemed to be here. I am that which is aware, and I have always been here, and I will always be here. This is the final recognition. So continue. Have faith. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Raminaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Raminaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Raminaya. May you be happy, healthy, filled with joy. Namaste.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Om Namo Vasudeva